All right, let's get straight into it. We're doing a deep dive on risk reporting for managers, a really critical and frankly often misunderstood part of the CP1 syllabus. We're going to go way beyond the basics here to really pull apart the mechanics and strategic value of how you communicate risk inside a financial institution. We'll focus on what separates a simple box-ticking exercise from a process that actually generates real value. So, let's kick things off with a classic exam-style question to get our heads in the game. This question gets right to the heart of it all. Risk management is not a one-size-fits-all deal. You've got different stakeholders with very different, sometimes competing priorities. By the end of this explainer, you'll have a solid framework for breaking down these different viewpoints, from the board's high-level strategic concerns all the way down to the regulator's focus on solvency, and you'll be able to clearly explain how that shapes the entire reporting process. Here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the fundamental why of reporting, then we'll dissect what's actually in a report. After that, we'll walk through the process that builds it, look at how you tailor these reports for different audiences, and then see how it all leads to action. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with a consolidated recap perfect for your revision. Okay, first up, the purpose. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of what a report looks like, we have to understand its core mission. Why do firms pour so many resources into this? Let me tell you, it is way, way more than just a compliance headache. Now this is the perfect way to visualize it. Risk reporting isn't some static document like it's filed away. It's the beating heart of the actuarial control cycle. It's that critical monitor the experience stage where all your beautiful assumptions get a reality check. Think about it. Assumptions on markets, on policyholder behavior, on operations. This is where they're tested. Without good, clear reporting feeding that real-world data back to the start of the loop, the whole cycle is broken. Imagine your lapse assumptions are way off, but the reporting is slow. The firm could keep mispricing products for months, burning through capital without even knowing it. I love this quote because it completely flips the script on what risk management is all about. This gets to the ultimate strategic goal. Reporting isn't just defense, it's a powerful offensive tool. It's not about building a fortress, it's about giving your generals a detailed map of the battlefield so they can see opportunities to attack. By truly understanding its risk landscape, a firm can spot chances to take on more risk, but smartly, in areas where it knows it has an edge. That, right there, is how you create value. Okay, so we've got the why locked down. Now let's crack open the hood and look at the what. What are the actual components that turn a mountain of raw data into sharp intelligence that managers can actually use to make decisions? A massive piece of the puzzle is the Management Information Pack, or MI Pack, and the keyword here is curated. This is not a data dump, it's a story. Its real power comes from tracking what's happening against a quantified risk appetite. So you'll have the big capital metrics, sure, like available capital can't drop below 150% of the minimum, but the MI Pack will also have key risk indicators, KRIs. It could be something super specific, like transaction error rates in the back office can't go above 0.5%. All of a sudden, a vague operational goal becomes a concrete, measurable thing that gets tracked every single month. And this risk register, this is where abstract fears become manageable facts. Let's just walk through the logic here. We start with inherent risk. That's the raw danger before we do anything about it. Take market risk. Probability of 4, impact of 5. Bang, you've got an inherent score of 20. Then, you list out the specific controls you have in place, like a hedging program. And the result? A residual score of 10. That's the risk the company is actually left holding. You've just quantified that your control is cutting the risk score in half. And pay attention to that owner column. The CIO isn't just a name on a page. That person is now accountable for making sure that hedging program works and the residual risk stays in check. It forces absolute clarity. So we know the purpose and we know the components, but what's the engine that powers this whole machine? Well, that process is enterprise risk management, or ERM. Let's take a look at how it actually works. Now, this is one of the most important distinctions you need to have crystal clear in your head: siloed versus holistic ERM. In a siloed world, every department is its own little kingdom, managing its own risks. ERM comes in and smashes those walls down to give you a single enterprise-wide view, and this is so crucial for spotting hidden dangers. For example, your investment team, your treasury desk, and a product division might all have exposure to the same bank. In a siloed view, nobody notices, but an ERM approach adds it all up, and suddenly, a massive red light starts flashing. You've got a dangerous concentration of counterparty risk. This shows you the journey the information takes through the ERM system. It all kicks off with identification. You gotta find the risks everywhere in the business.
Then comes measurement, where you put numbers to them using models and stress tests. Step 3 is aggregation, and this is where the magic happens, combining all those individual risks and critically accounting for correlations. And finally, all of that hard work gets distilled down into management reporting, the clear, concise MI packs that people can actually use to make smart decisions.
And that whole 4-step process leads us right into another classic exam question. How does this actually add value? Because this isn't just a cost of doing business, it's a strategic weapon. Identification means fewer nasty surprises. Measurement means you put your capital where the biggest risks are. Aggregation gives you the true diversified picture of your exposure. And reporting, well, that connects all that intelligence directly to the people making the big calls. All right, so we've got this incredible, powerful, aggregated view of risk. But who is it for? Because a one-size-fits-all report is a recipe for disaster. Nobody will read it. The absolute key to making this work is tailoring the message, the level of detail, and the focus for each specific audience. Let's look at the big ones. Let's start at the very top, the board of directors. These people are operating at a 30,000-foot view. They do not want to be dragged into the weeds. They need answers to the big strategic questions. They're asking things like, is there some emerging risk that's about to completely derail our 5-year plan? Are we taking the right amount of risk to hit our targets? And the big one, do we have enough capital to survive a worst-case scenario? The report for them has to be short, sharp, and forward-looking. Now contrast that with the chief risk officer, the CRO. The CRO needs to get their hands dirty. They're the head of the second line of defense, so their job is to oversee and challenge what the business units are doing. Their reports need to be granular. They're looking at the firm's total exposure, carving up the risk budget for different divisions, and checking if anyone's breaking the rules. And remember that risk register we looked at? The CRO is the one obsessing over whether those controls are actually working day to day. And then you have a completely different animal, the regulator. Their priorities are totally different. Honestly, they don't care about your shareholder returns. Their entire mandate is about financial stability and making sure policyholders are protected. They demand hard evidence that you have a rock-solid risk framework. They will pore over your capital calculations, like under Solvency II, and they'll read your ORSA report cover to cover to make sure you can withstand a massive shock and still pay out claims. So, we've covered the why, the what, the how, and the who. But look, all of this is just an academic exercise if these reports don't actually make someone do something. The ultimate test of any risk reporting function is whether it can turn insight into real, tangible action. And this is the payoff. This is the direct link between the risk team and the company's bottom line. Good reporting is a core input into the yearly business plan. It tells you where to allocate your precious capital. That deep understanding of diversification means you can make your capital work harder. As we said before, it helps you spot those opportunities to take good, educated risks. And on top of all that, it gives shareholders and rating agencies the warm and fuzzies, which can actually lower your cost of capital. This brings us to our third and final exam question, and really to the ultimate goal of this whole endeavor: achieving risk efficiency. Now, this isn't just about cutting risk. It's about squeezing the maximum possible return out of every single unit of risk you take on. The intelligence you get from reporting is what lets you fine-tune your position on that risk-return spectrum. It's about getting the most bang for your risk buck. Okay, we have covered a huge amount of ground here. To help lock it all in, let's condense everything we've talked about into a single, clean exam flashcard. So here it is, the whole story on one slide. Remember, it all starts with a purpose. It's strategic, not just compliance, and it's a key part of the actuarial control cycle. The best way to do it is with a holistic ERM approach to avoid those dangerous silos. Your key components are MI, PACs, and risk registers. The whole thing follows a clear 4-step process. You absolutely have to tailor the output for your key stakeholders. And the final payoff? It's not a report, it's action. It's smarter planning, better capital use, and ultimately a more valuable company. And I'll leave you with one final question to chew on. Think about this. If two companies have the exact same appetite for risk, but one of them has vastly superior risk reporting and intelligence, which one is going to be better at spotting and grabbing strategic opportunities? High-quality risk reporting isn't just a boring back-office function. It is a powerful, offensive weapon for outthinking and outperforming your competition.